Waiting all day for Tuesday Waiver Wire Showdown. I'm your host, Fernando. Joined with me today is my great co-host, Keith, and of course, Gary. We're back for another Waiver Wire week. Keith and Gary, how you guys doing?
Not too bad. Football was pretty good this week, so yeah, it was a good week. Those first wave of games, the 1 o'clock games our time, they were crazy for touchdowns. But yeah, good week of football.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I agree. I think this week might have been one of the craziest NFL weeks I've ever experienced. So, a lot to talk about.
Yeah, week one was actually, not bad. And then week two, just like you said, Keith, the 1 p.m. slate was just crazy. It was just such a high-scoring affair for a lot of the games. And then, of course, you got the Patriots and Geno Smith. Patriots can't win. They suck still. Both your teams won this week. Congratulations.
Somebody's team is 2-0.
Yeah, somebody's team we would have never expected to be 2-0 after the first 2 weeks.
Nah, but then again, we have a banged up Miami this week too, so maybe it'll be 3-0.
Yeah, possible.
Imagine you guys go 3-0.
Yeah, I mean, like, I still wouldn't be getting excited. Like, we could be 3-3 very quick, but yeah, it's good so far. Our game was good. I liked our game against the Patriots. That was like old school football. Should have got a lot more attention on Red Zone, but yeah, I liked that. It was a good game.
Yeah, I was on Red Zone watching the game, but they never really showed anything for our game. It was just never there.
No, I mean, it was exciting enough because I was watching some of it on the side. But yeah, I mean, it was last minute kick the game could have went either way. To be honest, it was like a toss of a coin. But I'm just happy we came out with the win, and I'm sure you're not, Fernando.
Definitely not. I mean, it was a typical Patriots game. They choke in the end. But Gary, your team. I mean, I picked the Jaguars to win. I really thought the Jaguars were going to win it, and looks like Browns kind of surprised me there.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the NFL is kind of just fans of the NFL are just being blinded by like that Cowboys game. I think that they're forgetting that our defense is still top tier. You look at the Cowboys score and say, oh, the defense must have been bad. No, we just, A, had 2 turnovers, and B, went for it on 4th down at our own 50 like 3 or 4 times. So the defense really had no other option but to give up points. And the reason why Brandon Aubrey had like 4 or 5 field goals, whatever it was because they were able to stop him only after 1, maybe 2 first downs. So I did expect us to win this game. That the Jaguars are just not good anymore. I think T-Law is done. I think them as a team is done. So yeah, I expected to win this game. We almost sold it at the end, but Deshaun looked good in the first drive. I don't know if
that wasn't bad.
I don't know if you saw a 7 for 8, 83 yards and a rushing touchdown. Need more of that.
Yeah, he definitely did look better. I mean, I don't know what's going on with the Jags. Trevor Lawrence is really not taking.
Trevor Lawrence is a bust.
Terrible.
I mean, yeah, we're going to be saying the same about Caleb. Who knows? But yeah.
Maybe. Question already in the chat is who's a better pickup, Smythe Huron, who is on Kansas City right now, or Deonta Foreman? And of course, we already know who Keith will be picking here.
Yeah, I'll be going with Foreman. Talking about him.
Well done.
I'm also on Foreman's train right there over Piran.
Yeah, I am too. I don't know why he got a majority of the workload Sunday, but he did. Kind of shocked me because I started Ford in 2 of my leagues. Thought he was going to run all over the Jags, and just didn't happen. Stefanski had other plans, I guess.
So, consensus, but we just talked about quarterbacks just a little bit, about Caleb Williams and Trevor Lawrence, but let's talk about some guy, and we'll dive into the news and notes and injuries, of course, from around the league, because we got a lot of injuries to go through as well. Bryce Young, benched, completely out, nilch, gone. Andy Dalton will start for the Las Vegas Raiders. This is after Bryce Young, in his second season, after the second game of his second season, 0-2 start. He's got 0 goose egg touchdowns and 3 interceptions. He is horrendous. And the Panthers just made the biggest mistake of their life by drafting not CJ Stroud.
Yeah, I think they're going back for another quarterback for next year's draft. I mean, if you've got to put Andy Dalton in, I think you've got issues. He wasn't even, if you go back and look at some of the games, Bryce Young wasn't even pressured that much on that approach, which was really bad. I think this Panthers team will be better with Andy Dalton. I mean, I don't think they're going to be brilliant anyways. It gives them a better chance to win the game, so that's the way they got to look at it.
I can't help but feel a little bit of joy in knowing that the Panthers messed up with their pick. I saw a brightness in Bryce Young as well. Of course, I thought Stroud was better, but I don't know. I don't know how his career turned down so bad. Statement from Eric saying, you put any young quarterback on the Panthers, they are bad. I mean, that might be true. I'm not going to disagree with that whatsoever, but I think that there are a dozen more young quarterbacks that would look at least somewhat better than Bryce Young does right now.
Well, can we just state the fact that if Bryce Young does not start for the rest of the season, the Bears still have the Panthers 2025 second round pick. And that is also including DJ Moore that they got, the first round pick in 2023, which ended up being offensive tackle Darnell White, cornerback in the second round in 2023, Tyreek Stevenson, and then in 2024, Caleb Williams, who hasn't been all that great so far, all to get the number 1 overall pick in Bryce Young. So, I mean, they still could get an early second round pick if Panthers just don't get anything going this well.
Yeah, I mean,
so I guess that's something to look out for.
Essentially, they gave away the haul now for Andy Dalton to play. I mean, that's the way you got to look at it. Like, I mean, yeah, it's not going well. I think the best thing for the Panthers was that Dave Tepper just sells them, gets out of there. I think he's running that franchise into the ground right now. I think so. It's not just a Bryce Young decision or him playing bad. The whole organization needs a big change.
Agreed.
And can we just mention that Aaron Rodgers, he has not thrown 300 yards in a game since week 14 of 2021. For context, Andy Dalton has done that 3 times with 3 different teams, and we may see that with a 4th time with a 4th different team.
The red rifle, that's why. He's the red rifle.
He's turning into the Fitzmagic show, going from team to team.
I respect it.
I mean, you want to play, that's what you got to do these days, especially when you get to his age.
Going into another news and notes and also injury around the league. Dolphins signed Tyler Huntley off the Ravens practice squad, or I guess his first name's now Snoop, if I'm correct. Snoop Huntley. So this is probably one of their greatest moves because they needed to get a quarterback. Skylar Thompson just is not the guy. And I think Tyler Huntley showed a lot of success when he had to back up Lamar Jackson when he was injured. And I think this is a great move if Tua is done for the year or on IR or misses a week or 2.
Yeah, I mean, I hope he doesn't play well this week, but he looked pretty good in limited, starts that we've seen him. He's kind of like Lamar Jackson light, I suppose, the way he kind of runs the ball and stuff like that. So I think he gives them a chance, but I still think they'll get someone else. Like, there's a chance. Like, I see Jimmy G is back in the league now. His suspension's technically over. Ryan Tannehill's floating out there. I still think they'll get someone else.
Former Brown great Tyler Huntley. I'm gonna root for him, but Keith, I know you're probably not gonna be rooting for him this upcoming week.
No, you can get over this one. Let the Seahawks win, and then I can root for him.
Interesting. Well, some other news that I just want to point out, just some crazy stats that I want to mention. We mentioned how Trevor Lawrence could be a bust. The last time Trevor Lawrence won a football game, you remember last Thanksgiving weekend? That's the last time he won a football game.
Wow.
Dude sucks.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's what, 10 straight
years. Given he was injured on a couple of those games that he had to miss. So Just wanted to mention that. And of course, the MVP race right now consists of Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield, and Sam Darnold.
Totally predictable.
Sam Darnold's going to go bad. We just know that's coming. I think we can hold the horses on that one. Baker, I'll give him his credit for now. But yeah, Sam Darnold will blow up.
It's just nuts to see these. All right, let's get into the injury report recap. I'm just going to blow through these names, and then you guys let me know if there's any big name they're all big names for the most part, but let me know who's the biggest name that you're the most worried on. Deebo Samuel, he's got a calf injury. He's to miss multiple weeks. Cooper Kupp, an ankle injury. He's to miss an extended period of time. Could be going on IR soon. Tua Tagovailoa, concussion. Team's not ready to put him on IR and make that IR decision yet on him. Justin Jefferson, a quad contusion day to day. AJ Brown, hamstring, will be out a couple of weeks. Could be looking at an IR possible thing for AJ Brown. Tajay Spears, ankle injury day to day. He was in a walking boot versus the Jets to end the game, but should be back and ready to go. Taysom Hill, a chest injury, was taken to the hospital, but he's considered day to day. He was checked out of the hospital, and he is okay.
I'm just going with the Rams in overall. They've got nobody left. They have no offensive line. Defense is banged up. I know they have basically second and third round receivers. I'm happy as a Seahawks fan because we might actually beat them now. But in general, this is not good. I think Cooper Kupp goes on IR, and then you get your top two wide receivers, and the Rams gone. And it's not good for Kyron Williams or Corum or anyone else, Ronnie Rivers, because every other team knows exactly what they want to do now is run the ball as much as they can. So I think for fantasy, this Rams team is a whole bus right now.
And I mean, that leads into All Talk Sports question, Cam's question. Which Rams receiver are you feeling most confident starting in your lineup? And I mean, personally, all of us, I say none. I think that's consensus as of right now. Kind of see what goes on with the teams. But I think my favorite guy on that team right now is Tutu Atwell, that I would trust the most.
I mean, they're all going to have up and down weeks. It's whoever's just hot week to week, I think. I think a lot of people's favorites would have been DeMarcus Robinson, but didn't really hit the headlines the other week. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be volatile, I think, each week.
Yeah, I wouldn't think of starting anybody on that team, to be completely honest with you. Obviously Kyron, but the wide receiver room is just so bad now. I probably wouldn't be comfortable with starting any of them. Although I have a guy that we talked about last week that I'm going to talk about again. Maybe I'm a little bit confident in starting him still, but we'll talk about that a little bit later.
And now, did you have a guy that you wanted to mention for the injury report that you're most concerned about?
I guess I'll just say, in my in one of the big money leagues that I'm in, I got Nakua, AJ Brown, Ingram, and Nixon, who are all dealing with injuries right now. So pick your poison there. But I guess if anybody out there is a Nixon owner, the newest things I've seen is that it's not supposed to be an extended period of time. Could miss 1 to 2 games. I think that's what they're saying at the most. So pretty good news.
Very good news as well. I think my most concerning player is Deebo Samuel, only because of the fact that the 49ers do not look that great. And with Deebo Samuel now possibly to miss a couple weeks, that just now gives you more of an opportunity to say that the 49ers might even go down a rabbit hole on losing more games.
Possibly, but I'm surely they've baked Deebo being injured into their season somewhere. I don't think he's gone an actual season without getting hurt. And if it's only going to be a couple of weeks, I think they'll be okay. But I do agree they didn't look great last week. So see if Jennings and the likes can step up while he's out.
What I think it does is it gives the biggest, probably, although it's early, probably the biggest 49ers storyline is Ayuk going to be able to show why he had all that drama this offseason? Now he's the guy. Obviously, Kittle's still there, but if Deebo is going to miss, a game or two or however many he's going to miss, then Ayuk's got to step up and be able to deliver. The first 2 games hasn't really done anything. This is his time right now.
Yeah, I think that's going to be. Ayuk just got paid, and now he's just looking irrelevant.
Right.
I mean, you saw last year where he was so relevant, and now he's just not. And I hope he does, because I also am a big Ayuk fan. I didn't draft him in a lot of leagues because he was going so high, but I don't know. I think that's something that 49ers need to worry about, is the wide receiver position and who's the next man. George Kittle looked good, but he also had to leave with an injury as well. Came back, but he also another one to keep in mind. Before we dive into the waiver wires, we got another question from Z Smitty. His running backs are Gibbs, Jacobs, JK, Bigsby, and Chubb, who's on IR. He's worried about having Bijan in London because he'll probably have to start both. Now the question is, should he trade Neighbors and J.K. Dobbins for Bijan Robinson? And obviously the only thing is he has a lot of receivers on his team, but not a lot of great ones. He's got Jay Jettis, Neighbors, Drake London, Xavier Worthy, Thomas Terry, and Amari Cooper. Keith, I'll start with you.
I'm guessing we're talking redraft here.
Yes.
Because if it's not, if it's Dynasty, I think I'd hold Neighbors. I think is going to be a star down the line. There's running backs Gibbs, Jacobs, JK. I mean, you start Gibbs and Bijan if you got. I'd do the trade because I'd want Bijan. Like Neighbors had 64% of the target share this week. That's not going to happen again this season, I don't think. So I mean, look great, but you can't trust Daniel Jones and you can't trust that offensive line. So yeah, if the trade's going for Neighbors and JK for Bijan, I'd do it and get Bijan.
I completely agree. I'm not the biggest believer in having 2 guys on the same starting lineup from the same team, but if you were to ask me what's one of the better stacks to have, it would probably be those 2. At the same time, I see that you are selling high in JK. As much as of a JK lover that I am, that's what I would do. I don't think he's going to be what he is right now. Halfway into the season, looks great right now. Looks like a stud. But unfortunately, I'm sure there's going to be some injury that pops up, and he'll be delayed for a little bit. Neighbors looks like a stud, but I think that's going to die out as well. The Giants, who are just awful. So I would definitely pull a trigger on that trade if it's a redraft.
Yeah, redraft league consensus-wise for all 3 of us, go make that trade. Go get Bijan, sell JK high while you can. We know JK's injury past. Does it come to him in 2024? Keith says hopefully not. But, I mean, overall, JK does have a history in that. And then Neighbors, of course, the consistency with Daniel Jones, we could say, I mean, we'll see the consistency and whether Neighbors can be able to be relevant. But I agree. I mean, you start JJ and Drake London, and then you have Gibbs and Jacobs, and then Bijan maybe in your flex or whatever you'd like to do with it. I mean, that's a solid core team, in my opinion. So,
yep. Great.
Let's go into the QB waiver wire ads of the week. And we had 2 players that we mentioned last week that people somehow did not pick up just yet that are over 70% owned. So guess what? We have to talk about them again. Gary, I'm going to start with you. Who is your guy? Who are we hopping in the car and going down to the waiver store and buying?
I mean, I'm just going to sit here and laugh because, I feel like I said this guy as a joke. Or not even a joke, but, the QB position for the waiver wire, was just so bad. And, he was, the only relevant guy out of the bunch that you guys hadn't chosen already. It's Derek Carr. And him and the New Orleans Saints just look absolutely on fire right now. Of course, they played the Panthers week 1, so they were obviously going to beat down on them. But I don't think anybody expected them to go against Dallas and just absolutely mollywop them. Shaheed,
so great to see.
Shaheed, my wide receiver pickup of the week last week, another bomb.
Take the laps, Gary. Take the laps. I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying it. Take the laps.
Olave looks really solid. That entire offense just looks great. Even the defense as well. So it's Derek Carr. I believe he put up 21.5, maybe a little bit more than that points this week. Still only 21% owned. I think that number is going to at least double after seeing this performance. So, yeah, it's Derek Carr.
I love it. I mean, the fact to go into Dallas, and mind you, I think it was me and one of you, I think as well, that said that Dennis Allen would be the first coach fired in our predictions. And I mean, to go into Dallas and beat Dallas by not just a small margin, by a big margin, and putting 40 plus points in the first 2 games of the season and then finishing last season 40 plus points. I mean, that's just incredible to see. And now I'm really rooting for these Saints, and I'm just glad that they beat the Cowboys, because who cares about the Cowboys, right?
Yeah, nobody cares about the Cowboys. I mean, the question is, are they legit? We've
I don't think so.
We've seen Derek Carr in the past, and he is going to have a Derek Carr type of game.
Right.
But as of now, you gotta go with the hot hand, and like he's playing probably better than ever. So yeah, I think Carr's still a great pick.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about it, Gary. Maybe if it was your joke pick last week, it's your definite pick this week.
For
and,
sure.
And it was only 7% more than last week, because this week he's still a very low percentage in 21%. So I'll talk about my guy that I also mentioned last week, and this guy's just on the brick of being over 70% owned, and he's 69%. But guess what? He is the QB1 through the first 2 weeks of the season. That is Mr. Baker Mayfield, a former, may I mention, Cleveland Brown. That is just balling out. Balling out. He's taking on Denver, who Denver's only allowed 14 points to quarterbacks, but have they faced good quarterbacks? Not really. You're going against Baker Mayfield. He's going to score a lot more than just 14 points. And do I need to say this again, that Baker is the guy from last year that finished as a top 10 quarterback in fantasy, and he will be finishing again as a top 10 quarterback. So I really hope that if you didn't get him last week, he's still in your waivers, because if you need a QB, this is the guy. And I think this is the best guy that you need to go grab in the waivers for the quarterback position.
Baker's going to Baker as well. Like I said about Derek, he's going to Baker at some stage. But yeah, again, while the going's good, I didn't think he looked that great this week. This is what I've seen, but still, you can't knock him right now. And it was him and Godwin all last week. Might be back to Evans this week, but he's been very good for fantasy, and he's good with the receivers for fantasy. So yeah, why not keep going with Baker?
Yeah, it's a great pick, Fern. I think the biggest thing that I noticed from Baker is that he's using his legs a lot more. At least last game against Detroit, he had that crazy pick up first downs, like 3rd and 15 with his legs, and then the next play he takes off for like an 11-yard rushing touchdown. So I think Baker's evolving so well. I'm very happy to see it. I'll always be a supporter of Baker. At the same time, I'll always stand on the fact that he had to move on, because what we're seeing with him being in Tampa, we're not seeing with him in Cleveland. It just happens. It's sports. So I'm very happy.
And Eric saying that he has a guy in his league that has Tua and Jordan Love. He picked up Baker. Do you trade to that guy in your league, Baker way? And I mean, honestly, if you have a quarterback that's a steady quarterback that you're fine with, that you can steal with, a top 5 quarterback, by all means, go trade Baker. Go get what you can for him, because he is the QB1 right now through the first 2 weeks. Not Josh Allen. Josh Allen was a bust in week 2, just to let you guys know. But he was a dud. But yeah, I'm all in. He's got CJ Stroud, so you might as well just trade away Baker. You don't need to have two good quarterbacks on your roster in a 1 quarterback league.
Yeah, you'll probably get someone better too. I'm sure the guy that has Love and Tua is probably a bit desperate now, unless there's something good out there. So you'll probably get something decent back in return.
Exactly. So you're selling them high, and the other guy is willing to buy high, I would assume. So that's a perfect scenario for you.
Keith, your guy, the final quarterback, who's the magician here?
So I was going to be boring and just have exact same as what we did last week and go with Gino, because let's be honest, Gino's balling. But I didn't. I don't have any fancy things. I went with Gardner Minshew. Why? Because he plays the Panthers. That's literally it. I mean, they got a great win over the Ravens, but he only scored 13 fantasy points. But I expect Minshew, Adams, Bowers all defeat on this poor Panthers defense and get nearer 20 fantasy points from Minshew this week. So that's all I got. I mean, I was going to be boring and tell you that Gino was great again and he scored over 20 points and all that stuff, but we're not going down that road again. So Gardner Minshew plays the Panthers. Why not?
I love it. I mean, how can you not love it when his wide receiver one is one of the best wide receivers in the league, right?
I agree.
Just mention that. Yeah, no.
Right.
I also want to mention.
only scored 13 points this past week.
Who? Devontae?
Didn't Devontae score only 13?
9 for 110 and a touchdown is only 13.
Oh, sorry.
Well,
Sorry.
maybe
that was his projection. Did he smash projection? Maybe.
I think that was his week one. But another guy I want to mention is Bowers. I mean, I figured he would be pretty solid down the road, but he's coming out the gates firing. I mean, he looks good. And I think that it's a big thing for Minshew to have trust in him because he will be that big security blanket for him. So I like it. Minshew. That game honestly might be close just because the Raiders are also pretty bad, even though they just beat the Ravens. So I think they're going to throw a lot with them. So if you need a quarterback this week, Minshew's not a bad option.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Get the Minshew magic train back out. I like him. I've always liked him. Liked him when he was in Jacksonville. And I really think that our 3 quarterbacks are probably the best quarterbacks available in the quarterback market in the waivers this week. Besides maybe Geno Smith, biasy thing for Keith, I guess.
Yeah.
But quarterback waiver wire ads of the week: Baker Mayfield for me, Keith Gardner Minshew, and Derek Carr. I got another question from Camden. He's got Richardson, Gibbs, J.K. Dobbins, Ramondre, Chase, Nico, Waddle, DK. And he's looking at trying to trade maybe some of those guys. He was thinking of offering Richardson, Ramondre, and DK Metcalf for Josh Allen, Garrett Wilson, and Tony Pollard. For me, I don't really want to trade for Josh Allen because his value is just so high. I'd rather trade for another quarterback. It's kind of not like mid, but like mid top 10 quarterback tier, like maybe a CJ Stroud. But personally, Richardson's fine. He's a quarterback 8 right now. I think he's fine where you have him, just keep him there, ride or die with your quarterback. I think some guys you could look for to trade away is either Waddle and DK for the wide receivers or JK or Ramondre. And JK is just the value that we've been talking about all day, that JK is the guy to trade away. You will need another running back, though, for sure, in your lineup.
Straight, if you just go 1 for 1, it depends what you want. Like, I would rather Ramondre over Tony Pollard. Depends what you like. Yeah. DK over Wilson. I prefer DK right now. And Richardson over Josh Allen. Richardson's a funny one because he's going to end up, in my opinion, like Justin Fields, where right now he doesn't look good in real life football, but I think he's going to put up the numbers in fantasy. So as a value, you might have someone better than Josh Allen. On the other hand, if I was the Josh Allen guy, I'm not taking this trade. That's the way I look at it, because I prefer Josh Allen. I think the ceiling's so high, but it's just to me, it's just who you prefer. You know, I'd rather you stick with Ramondre and DK on that side.
I agree. I don't honestly, to be completely honest with you, if I was the owner of either of these teams, I wouldn't be itching to get this trade done. I think all these guys are just like questionable right now, and how they're all playing could very vastly change during the season. So I would probably be hesitant to offer or accept this trade.
Yeah, I mean, kind of just try to trade away your top value in J.K. Dobbins, who you probably picked up off the waivers or last, like very low end in the draft. Because someone who has Josh Allen, they drafted him so high that they're probably not going to be willing to trade him away right away as well.
Package Waddle with J.K. J.K. is high right now. Well, it's going to be low because of Tua, but you know his value still could go up if they get or Huntley does well, or they get another QB in. And then maybe, like, I don't know, package them for Garrett Wilson if you want something like that. But, yeah, I'd go somewhere along them lines.
Yeah, I agree. I agree on that. You need to go get a running back, too. So go get yourself a running back. I think your wide receiver core is perfect. Let's go into the running backs waiver ads of the week. And Jordan Mason was a great waiver pickup. And if you didn't pick him up, well, you missed out. Because CMC, I guess – can we just state that CMC news was very fishy? Like it seemed very out of the ordinary, and he would have never been the 101 if we knew at least a little bit of this news.
Mm-hmm.
No chance. Like there's had to be something more going on. We haven't seen him healthy. You know what I mean? Training camp and into the start of off season and all that stuff. He's not been healthy by the sounds of things. So it sounds odd, but they also have to be careful with it because like calf, Achilles, all that stuff. We seen it last year with Rodgers and Kirk. How if that goes, you're screwed. So I still think going back to your Jordan Mason take, Mason's still going to be worked in when he comes back. So if you have Jordan Mason, I wouldn't worry about it too much. I still think he's going to get involved, come week 7, 8, whenever CMC is back.
Yeah, I don't even know what to think about the CMC situation. He makes the Niners like pretty much unbeatable unless you're one of the top teams in the league. So that whole team right now is just like so questionable for me. I don't even know what to think about him. I'm hoping that CMC can get on the field. For all my CMC owners out there, I feel your pain. In the past, I've definitely fallen victim to the 101 and ending up being a complete and total utter bust. So, yeah, I'm praying for you guys.
Yeah, I'm hoping whoever drafted at the 101 didn't take CMC, but of course, we know the consensus was CMC. Keith, we'll start with you for the waiver wire ad for running back position. Who is your guy this week?
So I went with Donta Foreman, who seems very interesting. I don't really know what kind of happened. Strong got injured, and that all of a sudden, Foreman was the guy, even though Ford was doing okay because he got 14 rushing attempts. He only got 42 yards, and he got 1 target for 9 yards. But six fancy points. It doesn't sound great, but they do play the Giants this week, and he's going to be worked in. I like Donta Foreman. I like what he provides. He's like a kind of Derrick Henry, I suppose, type of guy. Strong, powerful runner. But Ford was doing his thing. I was just surprised. And then when I kind of went and was looking at stats and all that to see that he had 4th in rushing attempts is a good sample. So I think he'll be mixed in. The Giants are terrible. I think the Browns will be leading on just keep handing the ball off. And I think Foreman will be very much involved.
Yeah, what happened there was definitely weird for me sitting there as a Browns fan because I obviously think that Ford is by far the RB1 there right now, and he didn't start that way. Deontay Foreman actually was the lead back, on the very first drive of the game. That he was that guy starting for some odd reason, but he was, and he was picking up some yards at pretty good clip, and he actually had a chance to score a touchdown at one point, but he fumbled it at the 1. So that 6 points could very well be 13. But yeah, I think this is a good move, except for the fact that the Browns are very questionable. I don't know what to think every week. I started Ford because I thought that he was just going to be the lead back and he was going to eat against Jacksonville. But obviously, Stefanski and the coaches have a different plan. So this next week can be completely different, and we would have no idea. But, if you're just looking at the stat sheet, Deontay's a good get.
Again, a guy that's taking on the Giants next week. The Giants are just really bad, and they give actually the 8th most points for the running back position to their opponents. So that looks good in both Jerome Ford or Deonta Foreman's perspective. And even if they split 50-50, they could average 13 points both each, which is still a good day for both players. So I like Foreman. I think he's a great pick. Gary, who is your guy? Because we kind of have intertwining guys.
Yeah, we do. You're going to obviously mention your little caption, so I'm going to also mention mine. This is only if Kareem Hunt doesn't sign. I'm going to go with Carson Steele just because I think that what's intriguing to me is the fact that he's already getting work, although it's very, very minimal. He's already seeing snaps on the field. Him being an undrafted free agent doesn't really set me off or anything. I wouldn't be hesitant to play him just because of that. They're already giving him the ball. So if they were to not sign Kareem Hunt, if he were to be that lead back on the depth chart, I think that they would use him. So I think that he can very easily find his way into the end zone. It's Carson Steele. He's available everywhere. He's only 4% owned. So if you're very scraping the bottom of the barrel for running backs, then I would say him.
I'll go with my guy as well, and Keith can touch on both of these guys. Kareem Hunt is my guy, and that's if, of course, he does sign with Kansas City. He's 13% owned, which is kind of shocking that he's higher percent owned than Carson Steele, because a guy who's not even in the NFL currently. But he finished as a top 40 running back in the last 2 seasons. When he was in Kansas City in his rookie year and his second season before getting cut with his whole fiasco business off the field, he was a top 12 running back in those years in 2017 and 18. Pacheco finished as the RB 20 and 16 the past 2 games prior to getting hurt. And if Hunt does sign, or say he doesn't sign and Steele is the main guy, one of these running backs will be really big for the time that Pacheco's gone, because of the fact that Patrick Mahomes likes to throw to his running backs if they can catch the ball. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But again, it's whether or not Hunt signs or if Steele is the main guy there. And I think that's the biggest thing. But again, I want to mention, if he does not sign, another guy that you could possibly go pick up as well is the Jets backup running back in Braylon Allen. He looked really good behind Breece Hall. And Breece Hall is still at the RB1. Don't get me wrong on that. But Allen looked really good. He caught 2 touchdowns, or ran in for a touchdown and caught 1 touchdown. And he had 33 yards on 7 rushes, and he still got 2 receptions. So I think that's also another good guy that I want to shout out there.
I mean, I think right now Carson Steele is probably the number 1 at the running back position that people are going to go for. The thing with Hunt was he didn't look that good last year, I didn't think. I thought his career was coming to an end. Maybe that was just then. He'll be all right now. None of these guys excite me. I don't think, on a personal note, I just wouldn't be going after either of them. Even if I was I need to be really stuck to go after them. I think there's no reason why the Chiefs can't just go heavy pass game. Obviously, they have to mix in some run, element into the game, but there's kind of no reason why. If you look, like, Kelsey's not been doing that recently, so he's definitely going to get mixed in more now. So they're just not guys I would be targeting, but I just think a lot of guys out there will be going for Steele as number 1 as long as Hunt doesn't sign, before waivers clear. If they do, then I can see Hunt being number 1 just because of what he's done previously. But neither guy really excites me.
Here's the reason why I think you didn't like Hunt last year. He was a Cleveland Brown. Why would you?
Well said. Yeah, it's actually crazy thinking about the fact that he had 9 touchdowns last year. Like, I don't really know if people know that, but I mean, that's a pretty large number for a guy that's just kind of there.
Yeah. A guy that finishes a top 40 running back too.
And
he was just eating.
I was surprised they didn't, you know what I mean? I didn't think he looked good, but the numbers suggested he was good. But then again, the Browns didn't decide to sign him this season. So that kind of had the alarm bells ringing for me.
Yep. Running backs of the week for the waivers: Kareem Hunt, my guy, if he signs with Kansas City; Deontay Foreman for Keith; and of course Carson Steele for Gary if Kareem Hunt does not sign with Kansas City. Before we go into our wide receivers, Camden also has a little question as well. How much do you think is the value for running back J.K. Dobbins and maybe a wide receiver in his room? As we mentioned, Chase, Nico, Waddle, and DK are his wide receiver room. I personally think you try to go for the top-notch guys like Saquon, Alvin Kamara, even James Cook. I mean, James Cook personally I wouldn't go for, but he's been producing well. So it's a guy that you could also go for. But I think Saquon or Alvin Kamara is a guy that you can try and go target.
JK's value is never going to be as high as it is right now. So you have to take full advantage of it. There's definitely going to be a team out there that needs to start a JK right now with all the injuries. So you have to go after that team, depending on what they have. What's the running back room? Like I target top end wide receivers. I know Garrett Wilson was a guy he was targeting. That's like the trade I said a minute ago. That's where I target. Like, I still think you're good with his team is Gibbs and Ramondre. I mean, yeah, he's a little bit short, but Richardson's going to do some running on the ground for you there too. But yeah, if you go for the running back position, I think it's harder to go for running backs because you can see how many that went down this week. and a lot of teams are going to need them. So yeah, what you said, Fernando, for the types of running backs to go for, yeah, but like if you're going to go and get a top wide receiver, I think Garrett Wilson will come to the fore. Who's another guy that me and Gary like is Devontae Adams. That a lot of people were underappreciating. That guy is
indeed
still balling out there. So here's another guy that the owner mightn't think too high of right now that you could go get.
Is Devontae Adams really balling right now? I'd actually know. No, yeah. I mean, it's tough for sure because your wide receiver room is really, really good. So unless you're getting one of the top wideouts, I probably wouldn't attack that position. I agree with Fern in going for one of the top backs in Saquon or Kamara. Kamara looks like he's back to his 2020 Christmas Day or whatever it was version of himself. So I would not be hesitant to get him whatsoever. That's probably where I would lean towards. Find someone that needs wide receiver depth, and that would definitely be the first guy to try to trade with.
By the way, Kamara was like the value of every draft. Like he fell so far, I'd say, at every single draft.
Yeah, I mean,
that's just ridiculous what he's doing right now.
And he's an RB1 right now.
Yeah.
So of course, Deontay Foreman, Kareem Hunt, Carson Steele, running back ads of the week. Let's go on to our wide receiver ads of the week. And I'll start with my guy in Tutu Atwell, guy who's only 2% owned. Kupp, gone. Nakua, gone. Everybody's gone, like we were mentioning. Who is the next guy that you trust in that wide receiver room? Is it Demarcus Robinson? Is it Tyler Johnson? Or is it Tutu Atwell? Personally, I think Tutu Atwell is the guy for Matthew Stafford. We know Stafford liked to throw with him when Kupp was out. The first 4 weeks of the season last year when Cooper Kupp was gone, Atwell was that next guy in, and he was getting 8+ targets a game each of those weeks. He finished with 15+ fantasy points in 3 of those 4 weeks. So I think this is the guy that is going to be the wide receiver 1 there for a while. And I think if you want a value wide receiver in the waivers right now, this is a guy you got to go pick up.
I was a Tutu Atwell fan when he came out of college, and when I found the landing spot too. I was, yes. I thought it was going to be great. Kind of hasn't really worked out for him, but I don't mind the pick. Like I said, though, earlier, I think it's going to be who's hot on a certain week. I mean, he might be the safety blanket, Tutu Atwell. But he didn't play that. Well, he did play week 1, but he got no targets at all, I suppose. And, they had a somewhat fit team. I don't mind the pick at all, but you're just going to have to take it that, like, you'll have his good weeks and his bad weeks, like all the Rams wide receivers.
Yeah, it's kind of tough because, like you said, whoever's got the hot hand is going to be the guy. Like, it could be a different guy every week. So it's definitely questionable. But I would agree in the sense that if you just look off of last year's numbers, he was that guy. Mm-hmm. Stafford loved throwing to him. What we know about Stafford is that he loves throwing to wide receiver 1s, and that's about it. We saw Cooper Kupp was the guy in 2021, and we saw Nakua was the guy last year. And so far, it looked like he was going to be Kupp again. But he's gone, like Freddie mentioned. So who's going to step up? Could be Tutu Atwell. So if he's there and you want a guy that could be valuable in the future, pick him up.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Keith, who is your guy this week for the wide receiver room?
I remember Alec Pierce for the Colts. This guy's put back-to-back weeks of really nice fancy output. This week was 7 targets, 5 receptions, 56 yards on a touchdown. I mean, he has Richardson's trust. It looks like them two are on the same wavelength, especially, I think last year was their first year together, and now this year it's them again. I'm surprised that Richardson has just kind of gone off Pittman for some reason, but Richardson's kind of that he's kind of going for them big play options, and Alec Pierce seems to be the guy down the field. So it's working out for him right now, and I think you can trust that Alec Pierce is at least going to get enough targets to be fantasy fantasy viable for the week ahead. So I like him. There's a guy I liked last year, but it didn't work out, and I'm kind of maybe I was a year too early on him. So I'm hoping he can keep up the good form.
Yeah, I don't mind this pick at all. I do remember last year, Alec Pierce was like the talk of the town after he had like a 20-point week or something like that with a bunch of targets, and then just randomly going back to getting 2 targets a game. But this year seems different. A-Rich seems to like him. Maybe could see a little bigger version of Shaheed and Carr connection. I mean, they got that deep ball connection as well. So you have that home run play potential. So definitely not a bad pick here.
Yeah, Keith, you and I were both, I think, intrigued last year on Pierce because I was also not bad, and I was buying into the Pierce train. But of course, Pittman was there, and of course, Richardson went injured. But now that Richardson's back, he's throwing to these guys, and everyone but Michael Pittman, which is so sad to see because I really liked Michael Pittman, and I really hope he can find something there in Indianapolis with Richardson. But I like the call on Pierce. I think he's a great value, again, also in the waivers. So he's another guy I'd also be targeting as well, if it's not Allen. Gary, who is your guy?
Yeah, I think it's my first Brown.
Oh, my goodness.
My first Brown waiver player so far. It's Jerry Jeudy, and I was never a big fan of Jerry Jeudy, but I slowly might be turning myself into one, just through the fact that right now
you're a Browns fan. Is that the reason?
No, it's the fact that Deshaun looks comfortable throwing to him. It's like the only player that he looks comfortable throwing to on that offense. So I'm going to trust that. He has put up back-to-back 10 to 12 fantasy point games. He plays 80% of the snaps, so that's not a problem. I also haven't seen him drop a ball yet. Like I've seen Amari Cooper drop 2 huge passes. So I feel comfortable snagging up Jeudy. He's only owned in around 60% of the leagues, so he could be available for you. If he turns into the guy for Deshaun over Amari Cooper, then that's a huge grab if you drafted him really, really late or he's still on your waiver right now. So it's Jerry Jeudy. Like I said, he got 10 to 12 points back-to-back weeks. Nothing eye-popping, but he's got, I believe, Deshaun's only passing touchdown in the past 2 weeks. So,
yeah, I don't mind it personally. It's just I was always a Courtland Sutton fan over Jerry Jeudy. Now Jerry Judy's in a different atmosphere. Can Jeudy stay consistent is my biggest issue. If he can keep scoring double-digit points and you have that third wide receiver slot that you can put him in, I mean, he's a solid wide receiver 3 flex play personally for me. So if he can consistently do that and be Watson's guy, then by all means, I'm all in on Jeudy for this year.
Yeah, I mean, I like the pick. I think he's a talented dude. I don't know what's up with Amari Cooper, but I don't think he looks as interested as other years. And I think
has he fallen off?
I think so.
I just think he doesn't. I don't think he likes being there. That's it.
Possibly, and I also think he might have a chip in his shoulder that he was going to be traded to the Niners, wasn't it, for Ayuk and all that stuff? So that might be an issue too. But I think Jeudy could be the one that takes over. We did speak on the offseason that, like, if this works out, it could be like a 1A, 1B type thing. Right. And it still has that chance if Cooper kind of gets it right. But I think, I don't think Judy's done anything wrong so far. So I definitely think he's a good ad. I think he's going to be one of these that as the weeks go by, he's going to get better.
Yeah, I could see it. So that's our wide receivers. Tutu Atwell, Alec Pierce, Jerry Jeudy. Camden back in the chat here. Dobbins and DK for Jonathan Taylor. Is that good value with Richardson at QB right now? I'm going to say no, unfortunately. I'm a big Jonathan Taylor fan, but Jonathan Taylor finishing as the RB30, RB17, hasn't even broke into that RB1 role that he used to have. I'm just not a guy that I would trade Dobbins and DK for Jonathan Taylor right now anyways. I think if you're looking for another guy, maybe Bijan, he's a guy that I wouldn't mind going after. Maybe if you're trying to get Garrett Wilson, see if he has another guy other than Tony Pollard, because I'm also not a Pollard fan. So that's my take on that.
Dobbins and DK and go after Brees Hall, Dobbins and DK and go after Kamara. Like, it's just the fact that it has Richardson, Jonathan Taylor, and the Colts offense, I don't think is an offense many people are really targeting right now, just the way it's going. So, yeah, just move on to a different running back is what I would say there.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I'm personally not a big Jonathan Taylor guy, and although he looks good in terms of running the ball, so far he hasn't broken 15 points. So I don't know. I think that he's, besides that 1 year where he was RB1, he's always being overdrafted. And a lot of people fell victim to it again this year. So I definitely wouldn't go for him, especially seeing that Richardson is your quarterback. It just wouldn't make sense to me. If the Colts have a bad game, then you're screwed pretty much. So, yeah, I agree with Keith's guys. I would go after Brees Hall. I would go after Kamara, Saquon, any of them.
Yeah. Can't agree more either. Chandler in the comments saying, we can hold 5 running backs. Would you drop any for Stell, Pirine, or Javonte Williams? His running backs are CMC, Henry, Derrick Henry, Jerome Ford, Ezekiel Elliott, and Raheem Mostert. Stinks that you can't add another running back if CMC is on the IR. But I think if you had to pick one, it's maybe Mostert. But personally, I'd rather have those 5 than picking up the other ones.
If I had to pick, I'd pick up Javonte and drop Zeke. I think when Mostert comes back, I think it's better. I'm not in on Zeke this year. I was in on Dowd also.
I wouldn't drop any of these guys. None of these guys are really eye-popping to me, honestly.
Yeah.
I've never been a big Javonte fan. I never really understood the hype around him. He's not very good. So I probably would just keep the 5 that you got right now. Sucks that CMC's out, but I think you'll be okay, honestly.
Yeah, especially if Mostert comes back and if Zeke can go back to maybe his week 1 performance plus some as well.
Henry will warm up. Don't worry about that. He always does.
Yeah, of course. Now, of course, the brutal position of them all, the tight ends. This week, it's questionable on these tight ends. But I'll start with my guy who did get double digits, which last year we said if a tight end gets you 8 points, it's a win for the tight end position. And I'm still backing that. Zach Ertz, he's my guy for this week. He led the team in receiving yards. 4 targets, 4 receptions, 62 yards. He seems like he's Jaden Daniels' safety blanket and a guy that Daniels can trust. Obviously, we saw McLaurin. He got 6 of his 8 targets for only 22 yards, which is something that you don't want to see from your wide receiver 1. But we also know that Ertz can score touchdowns. We saw him score touchdowns in the past when he was in Philly, when he was also in Arizona. Now, can he stay healthy is my question, because he only played 17 games in the last 2 seasons. But if he can stay healthy, I think Zach Ertz is a great guy for Jaden Daniels, good safety blanket, and he's a guy that could get you a consistent 10 points, maybe, if you're lucky, more.
I think you kind of said it all. I think he's the safety blanket for Daniels. Again, these tight ends, you kind of said it's kind of like it's always brutal here. I don't mind this. You're just gonna hope he falls into the end zone and you're whatever 10 points, then post 16, you're happy out. But yeah, I think he's a fine pick once he stays healthy.
Yeah, Freddie, you actually took my second tight end choice, only to Keith taking my first. So I'm not going to disagree. I'm not going to disagree with this pick. Yeah, it seems like that. He's got that safety blanket role. I figured it was going to be Ben Sinnott because they drafted him. Maybe that could be the role later.
I thought so too.
But Zach Ertz staying somewhat relevant.
Yep.
I'm glad to see Ertz maybe staying just a little bit relevant still. Maybe he'll be the Chigozie Okonkwo or Kate Otten of last year. Keith, who is your guy for the week?
Mike Gesicki. I mean, this guy saved me. I had Ingram in a couple of leagues. I seen your message, Fernando, because I think you messaged Gary about it. I was like, gotta change this quick. Mike Gesicki saved me with his 9 targets, 7 receptions, 91 yards. Didn't get in the end zone, but still ended up with 16 fantasy points. A lot of people think, he's probably going to go away when T. Higgins comes back, but Not if you look at the way the Bengals, use their tight ends. Like all last season, even when the guys were healthy, they're very much involved. So I still think Gesicki is going to have a lot of targets, down the line, and he will end up in the end zone more times than not. Like we've seen, they went back and looked at his touchdown from week 1 and said it should have been counted. So that kind of screwed over the Bengals there and people in fantasy if you had Gesicki. So I think this guy is going to be good going forward. And, I'm even considering just getting rid of Ingram now and leaving Gesicki in there in some of them leagues.
I couldn't believe it, honestly. I was watching that game because I had Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and I'm like, these guys got to get going. And every other pass was to Gesicki, and he must have had 20 targets or I don't know. But at least all the tight ends together had like 40 targets.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was my number 1 tight end pick too. It's obvious. I mean, he had, like you mentioned, 16 points. I think he actually had 9 or 10 targets. So that was a lot of involvement there. Exactly what you want to see from a tight end position, especially when there's a guy on the waiver wire doing that. So if you got Ingram or you got Njoku or Ferguson, I don't know when he's coming back. Definitely go after Gesicki.
Yeah, he was 9 yards shy of triple-digit receiving yards, was at 91 receiving yards. My only concern here is if T. Higgins comes back. There is rumors that he plans on coming back from the injury. So if that is the case, then Mike Gesicki's value does go down once again. But I think for the time's sake, I think Gesicki is probably one of the top tight ends to add this week. And then, of course, lastly, Gary. We mentioned this guy last week. It was Keith's tight end of the week. This week, he didn't do too well, but he did mention to add him again. So who is this guy?
It's Colby Parkinson, and it's just blatantly on the fact that everybody's done on that offense. I mean, he's got to get more involvement now, right? I mean, like we all mentioned, there's going to be some guy that randomly pops off every week, but in certain scenarios like this, there are those steady guys that get 4 or 5 catches a game for 40 yards or something like that. I think he very much could be one of these guys. The check down, safety blanket for Stafford. I think he's going to need that with this young, unexperienced wide receiver core that they now have. So I think if, you want 7 to 8 points a game from a low-end tight end, and I think that Colby Parkinson gives you that chance of happening, especially with Higbee not there.
Yeah, I'm on board with this. I mean, like what you said, Gary, there's no one there. He has to get more involved in this week. He was involved pretty okay week 1. That's how we had him on the waiver wire last week. But he has to get involved. I mean, he's definitely the guy that can just move the sticks for you if you need them 5-6 yards, get involved that way, and just take up the reception slowly. And then he could be a guy in the end zone too. So I like this pick. The Rams have nobody, and they really need to use everyone they do have at the moment.
Yeah, for a guy that put only 2.2 points, fantasy points this past week, you may see some people drop him in leagues. And I think that's just a gold mine waiting to happen. I think this is another guy you need to go pick up from the Rams because of the fact Nakua and Kupp are on the IR. So that just means that no matter what, there's at least 3 to 4 games that you're going to have either Parkinson going off, Tutu Atwell going off, or maybe Demarcus Robinson. So I love the pick on Parkinson personally. So Zach Ertz, Mike Gesicki, Colby Parkinson, our tight end waiver wire ads of the week. And before we dive into Thursday Night Football, we got another question from HD. Would you guys trade Ramondre for J.K. Dobbins and Xavier Worthy in a full PPR league? I'm, as much as a Patriots fan, I am. That is the only guy on the Patriots that you can trust. And I think that you keep Ramondre because J.K. is just too much hype. And I think you're just trying to trade for the hype right now. So personally, I'm all in on Ramondre. Fine if I don't get Xavier Worthy. I'd rather keep Ramondre a top 10 running back this year.
Depends how you play fantasy. That's how I look at this. Like, if you want the ceiling guys, it's Dobbins and Worthy. I mean, Worthy could get 2 targets, catch both, and get like 20-odd points. That way. Dobbins right now, his ceiling's, as high as it has ever been. you also have to factor in the injury risk there. Ramondre, he's like the floor with a bit of ceiling, and he's just steady pace guy. He's going to get you 12 plus points a week. So it just depends how you play it. I would take Ramondre on this side. I just think JK is too volatile right now. I think the odds are of him getting hurt is probably high, and his ceiling won't go higher than it is now. So I would just take the Ramondre side, but it all depends how you play this.
Yeah, I would definitely rather stay with Ramondre. I think that you're going to look at Worthy, and his week 1 numbers are blown way out of proportion. He had 2 touchdowns, but when you look at it, I think he only had like 4 touches that game.
Yep.
So it's like, yeah, he did the most with them, but you're going to be very lucky getting 20 plus points a week on 4 carries or 4 touches, whatever it is. So Worthy really at the moment doesn't move me too much. We've already spent half of this podcast talking about J.K. Dobbins. I really wouldn't do this trade personally.
No. And quickly, would you rather have Brian Robinson or J.K. Dobbins? I still stick with J.K. Dobbins, but again, do not trade away Ramondre, in my opinion.
Oh, well, Brian Robinson or Dobbins?
It's like top guys here.
Yeah. These are my both. I like both. These were like the 2 late round picks that I was going for. Robinson, because I would have had him higher.
I would stick with Dobbins. Personally, I'm not like the biggest believer into both Brian Robinson's or Eckler. I just think that situation's up in the air. And so is JK's, but if you're asking me to put between the both, I would probably lean towards Dobbins.
Brady in the chat saying trade Neighbors for Jordan Mason. He's got CMC on the IR, starting Jerome Ford and Zach Charbonnet. That is brutal. He definitely needs some running back help. I think if you're trading for a running back, I think Jordan Mason should be one of the last options, only because of the fact that he will come back. So then you don't want CMC and Jordan Mason on your roster. I think if you're trying to go for a guy, maybe go for a Breece Hall, like some guy that's like an RB2, solidified RB2 currently this season. I think Breece Hall kind of fits that. You might be able to get Breece Hall for Malik Neighbors.
I don't think you will. Not a chance.
You could. If someone's a Giants fan or if someone's really high on Neighbors, you could.
Someone doesn't know how to play the game properly. I mean, this is fine trade for me in terms of where they are right now, because Neighbors is never going to have that many, targets, I don't think, in a game going forward with Daniel Jones. So I think this is fine trade right now. You're in need with what you got there. Ford's no guarantee by what we talked about earlier with, Foreman. And then Charbonnet is only a lock until, Walker's back. And I think he'll get one more week and then Walker be back. So I'm fine with doing this trade. I just don't think you get any higher. I think if you're trading Neighbors away, you're kind of thinking, well, let's hope that was his good week. And I think it will be, but I think just do it. I think Jordan Mason's safer for a few weeks anyway.
I probably wouldn't do it. I mean, I just think that it's like you're trading away Neighbors for when you think about it, you're trading away Neighbors for a guy that you already have, right? Like, it's like you have that guy that's filling in for CMC, and once CMC comes back, you're going to have that still. So it's pretty much like you're just giving away Neighbors. It sucks that you have to look at it that way, but that's just personally how I look at it. I also wouldn't do a 1-for-1. That's just me. So definitely an odd situation. It sucks that Ford and Charbonnet are your 2 guys right now. But if I don't know Kenneth Walker's injury status, but if he's out for a few weeks, then at least you buy him some time. You could still start Charbonnet and buy some time and see who is able to play at a trade.
Could also go for someone like Kyron Williams, who's the RB 18 right now, too.
Yeah, also true.
But let's get into it. It is Thursday night football predictions. My Patriots versus the Jets, an AFC East showdown. Over under 37.5 points. That is terrible. I don't know why they have this slated for a Thursday night football game. Did they hope to see Drake May? well, you're getting Jacoby Brissett.
Yes.
Aaron Rodgers lasted more of 4 plays, so at least you got that proof that he will be. You get to see him on Thursday Night Football. But we do got to mention that we have the records of the good, the okay, and the ugly. It's 4-0, Mr. Keith himself.
Yeah. Continuing from last season, so
undefeated 4-0 currently. I'm right in the middle. I can't get the record right, but I get the over/under right. 2-2 on the season, and Gary, the ugly, yikes, 0-4.
Well, it happens, and like I mentioned, it's not about how you start; it's about how you finish. So I'm hoping I can finish way better than I started. Definitely off to a bad start. Happens to the best of us. I've definitely seen worse. So I mean, I feel like us over bettors on the Bills-Dolphins game just got completely shafted. I mean, that was very, very ugly. So it happens. You get unlucky sometimes. So, but what I do want to mention is that wow, you guys aren't even giving me a shot to get in the race here. I mean, we all have the same picks. What's going on?
Sounds like the Cleveland Browns to me.
I guess.
I'm fine sitting out on top. I'll just copy you guys by half.
Yeah, right. That's
we can't let them.
Yeah.
Well, the good, Keith, make your pick. Who do you have for Thursday Night Football?
I have the Jets winning 23-20 and hitting the over because it needs to be a really, really bad game to get the under.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I have the Jets 24-14. I honestly, sorry, Fernando, I don't think that the Patriots are going to do much on that. Pretty
Don't
good.
worry. Don't worry about that. I know how bad they are. To see it over under 37.5 is just crazy to see. They would need to be like a 19-18 type of game. I take the Jets as well. We have a Jets sweep across the board. I have the Jets 21-18. Again, low scoring affair, but regardless, the Patriots fall to 1-2, even though they should be 2-1 at the very least. You should have beat Geno Smith and the Seahawks in overtime. But hey, it's okay. Unfortunately, Gary, you and I both won't be able to catch up to Keith because if one of us wins, if one of us wins, then all of us wins. And if one of us loses, all of us lose because we all have the Jets and we all have the over. So regardless, the records will stay similar to next week. But hey, you might get in the win column.
I'm fine with that. Fine.
Looks like I'm riding with Pat's Nation.
Pat's Nation, yikes.
Things almost got back, Gary.
Oh, man. Hey, if the Patriots can pull out a win, then it's just annoying because they should have been 3-0. But hey, it's okay. It's okay. Well, that's going to do it here for this week's show. If you haven't done so already, go to Underdog Fantasy. Go use that code SportsTimeHQ. They're going to match your first deposit up to $100. I know Underdog just sent out a message saying that CeeDee Lamb right now, they have a free pick here, half total yards over under. And of course, you got to smash the over on that. So it's an easy one that you can win.
Pretty hard.
Right? You just gotta go get yourself that Underdog Fantasy app. Go use that code SportsTimeHQ. They're going to match first deposit up to $100. And again, if you haven't done so, go to TrophySmack.com/SportsTimeHQ. Go get yourself a trophy ring or a belt for your trophy league, for your leagues, fantasy leagues, whether or not it's just football or if it's another sports league or maybe an office league type thing. And hey, if you want to get yourself or donate yourself a toilet bowl trophy to Gary for the Thursday Night Football predictions, by all means, because that is where he will be finishing this season. But again, TrophySmack.com/SportsTimeHQ. Once again, I was joined by my great co-host Keith. Go follow him all over social media at SwampDonkey_90. And of course, Gary, go follow him at Gary.Dombeck. We're back on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So again, if you can't listen to us live and you want to listen to us in the car or whatever, well, we got you covered. We're back on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's posted every week, soon after the live show on YouTube. So once again, I'm your host, Sports Time HQ. We're back. We're here every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Go check us out all over social media at SportsTimeHQ, and we'll see you all next week.